My name is Victor Kidson, and we're here in Bloemendaal for Luminosity Beach Festival 2015. With me I have Torsten Stenzel, also known as York. How are you?
I'm really good, Victor.
You just played your set at Lumi Beach. That was an amazing moment. How did it feel?
Well, it was amazing to see actually how many people are here who know the songs that I played and who appreciated the trance music. I mean, you don't have much festivals where you play and people sing along the tunes. It was really lovely and keeps me going, basically.
Were you surprised of how many people that knew the tracks here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, there's not many festivals where you play a tune and people start to sing the songs and they know the drops and they know what kind of sound is coming. And there was a bunch of people who were singing line by line. And at the last track I played, which was Silence, I actually pulled it down and let's see if they really sing along. And I heard them all singing and my horrible singing on top, so it was really interesting.
It was a beautiful moment. So you started as a raver in the early 90s, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was always into music, and I had my first release in 1989 on Technodrome International back in the days. It was a little label originally founded by Thaler. And of course I was a raver. I mean, I was going out all the time, and this is how I met Taucher and basically all the DJs I worked together with, Taucher, Seiken. And this is also how York started. So I was one of them, jumping in the crowds and going crazy.
How did you go from being a raver to a producer? Because I'm guessing that's a pretty big step, right?
Well, I mean, I was playing with a synthesizer since I was 14. When I was turning 14, other kids, they would whatever buy from their money. I was saving all my money to buy a Yamaha synth. So the first thing I bought was a synthesizer, and I played around, and I realized for a couple of years I play piano since I'm 5. So I have a musical education, but I realized with one thing you can't do much, especially, I mean, today you have a laptop, you open the laptop and you have some plugins and you can produce. But back in the days with one synth, you basically could play one sound and that's it. And so from year to year I bought more equipment. I bought a Roland 808, I bought a 909. And I was basically with 17 already a hobby producer. And
did you have a plan or a dream back then, what you wanted to become?
I was fascinated by electronic music, and especially bands like Kraftwerk, for instance. They influenced me very much. I listened to them and I was fascinated by this totally synthetic sound. And I was obsessed of producing that sound. And that's how it all started, basically. I mean, it was my motivation, and it was just for the pure interest in the music, how to make that sound.
A lot of people think that you're York and that was like your thing, but you have done a lot of other stuff, both like recently, but also in the beginning. I mean, if we look at Sakin and Friends, you were working with them as well, and you worked on Ayla.
Yeah, I mean, I produced just to start. I produced with Taucher, who I met in '93. We produced 54 remixes, I remember, in 1.5 years, and we remixed from Faithless to Ayla to so many different acts, Culture Beat, and all kind of people. So we put out this album, Life is a Remix. Maybe you heard of it, and there's 2 volumes. And so I was networking like crazy with different people, and it was always my way to make music is to network. So I never liked really to sit alone in the studio. And Seiken, for instance, I met also through Taucher, and I heard him play, and we started to make music, and he had some good ideas. We actually worked a couple of years before we had this huge hit with Braveheart. We had our releases on Bonsai Records. And it was all growing into that. But yeah, I mean, I can say I have over 280 releases or so on vinyl alone. I have pretty much all those vinyls in Antigua in my house. So it's a big collection of stuff that I made. And yeah, it's a long past.
How did the York project come about?
York basically was founded through the Return to Atlantis album. where my brother was always playing guitar, and I was working with Taucher on his first album after we had some hits with Fantasy and Infinity, and the clubs became big in the tracks became big in the clubs. And so we had like a chill out tune, and I said to him, let's try to put some guitar on that. And I think I can say we were like pioneers. I was a pioneer in that moment, because you wouldn't hear any track electronic music in the 90s with guitar. That wasn't there. It didn't exist. And it was amazing to put the guitar in it, and I put huge reverbs on it and delays, and suddenly it became this Pink Floydish meets trance sound, and I was like, wow, I love that. And that was basically the birth of York. When I decided, whenever I was doing something by myself, I brought my brother in, and I let him play some melodies, and I was cutting the guitars together. And this is also how Awakening, Yastamba, On the Beach, all those songs, how they started.
Tell me about one of the most magical tracks to me is Reachers of Civilization. How did that track come about?
Reachers is for me also one of the cornerstones, because it's for me the essence of the 90s trance music. And I was watching a documentary about Native Americans from South America who basically they lived in a jungle away from civilization. And I saw this documentary, and they basically took those people out of their home and dragged them to Northern America and put them like in cages and like in a zoo. So the people would see them and be astonished about those wild people and what they do, and eating dogs and whatever weird stuff. A sad story too. And I was kind of touched by it, and randomly I taped the whole thing. And I was working in the studio, and I thought like, wow, I remembered this documentary about the Native Americans. And then I played it back, and I heard the voice of the narrator, who was one of their sons, talking about what they did to them. And I thought, this is going to be an excellent track. And I played the pads, chopped the pieces out of the tape. Back in the days, it was all taped on VHS, so nothing digital and no computers. It was just like cut it, and I put it in my AK sampler, and yeah, there it went. My brother came in, played some guitars on it, and the track was out, and became also one, I think, of one of my nicest tracks. And today, when I played it, the feedback was amazing on the tune.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how does it feel to listen back to the tracks? Because it still sounds fresh, but it was a long time ago when you produced it.
Well, it was 1999, 98, so it's a long time ago. I saw young boys and girls dancing to it and asking later to sign stuff, and they knew the songs. So it's amazing to hear it and to see people dance to it, where it's produced like ages ago, and yeah, it's a motivation also, because some of those tracks, it seems like they have a long lifespan. Like some of the Beatles tracks you can listen today on the radio, and they're still better than anything else created today. And I don't want to say I'm like the Beatles, but
yeah, the tracks are timeless.
I think this track has some timeless qualities too.
If we look at what you have been working on besides York, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because we know your York stuff and we know your trance releases, but you have been working on music on different genres as well.
Yeah, I'm not limited to genres, and that's sometimes most of the people know my trance stuff, my trance releases, but I'm kind of a chameleon, so I can adapt to music and do different stuff. And in the last years, my biggest successes, for instance, wasn't dance music at all. For instance, I produced 6 songs or more songs now with Finnish rock singer.
Yeah, from Nightwish, right?
Yeah, Tarja Turunen from Nightwish, and we have a great relationship. She's a good friend, and we met through Ice Flowers, which is so funny, because she heard Ice Flowers on the Buddha Bar compilation, and they contacted us, and we started to write songs together. And her debut album, I have 7 songs on that album that I wrote with her, and some other writers, and also my wife. She's a talented writer too. And suddenly I was writing gothic rock music, which is like weird for me, but the album made about 10 times gold, so it was a great success, and for me motivation also to continue working in music, because we all know there's sadly not that appreciation anymore for music like back in the days. So most of my producer friends, they work side jobs, they can't, the sales are really poor, and it's not like it was before in the 90s. So I also assume to be able to live off music, you have to be able to produce all kind of different genres and write different music. My heart still beats for trance music. I mean, that's definitely, and it never will change. I guess you have to be able to produce all kind of genres.
We were speaking about that before, because you're doing trance because you want to, right? And you're here and playing because you want to, because this is your passion. How do you balance that compared to the other genres that you're working on?
Well, let me give you one example. There's not much music where I literally could start to cry if I hear a nice melody, like a baby. And trance makes that with me. If I hear a song that really touches me, sometimes in the studio. For instance, I prepared the set for Lumi, and I listened to one track, and the melody was so beautiful that I was sitting there and tears came out of my eyes. And the only music that makes that with me is trance. And it will always influence all the other stuff somehow. But I have a special connection to that music, and it influences definitely the rest too.
What is your, whether you're working on trance or any other genre, what does your creative process look like? How do you start, or where do you start?
It's different sometimes. I mean, honestly, I never started with a beat. For instance, a hip-hop producer would start with a beat or a sample. I start with a melody. So that's usually I play a melody that really touches me, and then everything grows out of this melody. That's usually how I work. Yeah.
Have you ever, it's not easy to produce music, but do you have any problems with it, or does it just come to you naturally when you sit down and do it?
You know, I think music producers and I also consider myself a writer, because I write music, I play piano, I write chords and stuff. We always need a creative input in our life, and that can be a place you are. It can be things that happen in your life that touches you, and that we live through the music and translate into music. And I think that is what makes my sound always. If you hear a track from me that I like or that I produced, it always will have some Torsten in it from that moment. So I try to capture a moment and put it into the music. And as long as I live, I will have moments that I can capture. So I think even when I'm an old man, I will come up with melodies, and I sit there, and it will never stop.
I like that. One track that still fascinates me right now is Liquid Skies, that you wrote together with Kai Tracid. What was it like working with him back then?
Well, I respect Kai a lot, because he totally established his own sound, and when we started to work, he was like in the beginning of his career, and I met him, and we basically we're almost neighbors, and I loved his precision when he works. He's very precise, so he takes a lot of time for his music, and he's crafting it very much. I think you could call it like that. So you will never hear a track from Kai that is produced in half an hour. So he would take a long time listening to everything, make sure everything is well balanced. He would listen to the mixes many, many times. And I respect that a lot. And also the decisions he made, that he was sticking to his sound when he established his label Trusted Tracks, that was huge. And yeah, I think he's an artist that was always true to himself. And I mean, look into the music scene, how DJs change. They play that sound because it's suddenly more popular, and they have no own character, or you know, they start to adapt sounds just to be popular. And I really admire someone who stays to a sound, and I think that's Kai.
How do you look at the scene today? How much do you listen to the trance DJs or the DJs today?
Well, I'm getting a lot of promos, and I listen to a lot of releases, and there's so many good producers, new producers, and there's a lot of good music out there, definitely. Of course, there's a lot of bad music out there too, but music is a matter of taste, and I don't want to be so arrogant. I don't to say I know what's good or what's bad, but in terms of trance, I think in the last years it got better. So we have kind of a revival of the sound, and I mean, you see it here, the young people who are here. There's not a bunch of 50-year-old people in there.
There's young people as well, yeah.
There's young people in there, and they love it. And so for me, that's a sign that this sound is also still known today, and that it's going to come back.
What are you working on right now? If we were to break into your house and look at your computer or your music, what are you working on right now?
Well, you will find my almost finished New York album, which is one CD, very chilled, very Caribbean, very Balearic influenced, and the other one is more trance, but let's say a bit deeper and slower. It's no uplifting trance, although I really like uplifting too. I played some tunes today too, but it's more let's say a sound you can listen in the car or at home or on headphones, and you will enjoy it. But the album is almost done, and it was a lot of work. I'm working for 3 years on it, and yeah, that's what you're going to find from that side. Otherwise, I just finished a nice tune together with Taucher and Ayla. It just came out on my label Planet Love Records, called Kings and Queens. I think it's a nice trance track, and there's also a beautiful remix by Stonefresh and Terminal. And yeah, there's some other secrets on this album I can't tell you right now. Some good collaborations. Yeah.
When is the album due to be released?
Well, I'm gonna be straight working on it when I go back to my studio, but I aim for, let's say, October this year is going to be realistic. And I also want to do hard copies this time, because the Islanders album my last album was just available in a couple of countries on physical CD. But I still think just the download is so unsatisfying for someone, because you really want to have something in your hands and put it there. It's also so much work in it, and then you just download it and you have it on a memory stick or on a hard drive.
Yeah, and that's it, right?
And that's it. And it's kind of,
I agree with you 100%. There was actually, well, me included as well, but some other DJs who brought vinyls that wanted you to sign them. What was it like to see the old York vinyls?
Great. Actually great. And you know what? It's interesting that there's a revival. I mean, it's more on a collector's level, but I think we have a lot of labels to press vinyl at the moment, and the vinyl numbers are actually going up. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a global reach that goes into the clubs and everything. It's too late for that. Now everything is digital. The CD players don't play CDs anymore. It's all data. You put the memory stick in and you play it. It's not like back in the days, and I think it won't come back. So we have to adopt the future and know, there's no way back anymore. But still, I have this romantic feelings when I see CDs and I remember how to touch it. I have MK2 Technics in my studio, and I play vinyl because I love the sound of vinyl.
Thank you so much for your time.